I got into television through the job at Theater Arts, which I'd had a story published in college. And because of that, I got hired by Harper's Bazaar to do fashion copy, which the day I was supposed to be fired, all my friends told me that I was going to be fired. I rushed into the managing editor and said, I quit. And she was largely relieved, because I didn't know anything about fashion and cared less. But the theater, that was different. And I got the job on Theater Arts by calling a very good screenwriter of some renown in Hollywood now, Lorenzo Semple. And I saw him on the masthead, and I wrote him a letter and said, Dear Lorenzo, if you're the Lorenzo Semple who used to be called Bunny, I'm the Ellen Violett who used to be called Pucky, and I'm looking for a job. And so he had me come in, and Sally Deutsch, who was our managing editor, gave me a job. Out of that, I met Al McCleary, who was at Fordham. He was running the theater at Fordham, off Broadway, to put it mildly. I mean, most of the early producer directors on television came from the campuses, a lot of them. Fredco did too. And McCleary, because I'd edited a incomprehensible, some copy he'd done for us, a piece, asked me to, he said, I've got a, and also I dramatized a play for him up there. He asked me, he said, I've got a sustaining show, summer show on NBC, and I don't know what lights are going to do on sets, so I don't want any sets. I want faces. I want to use faces as background. I know how to light faces. And I want the kind of story, terribly strong, and he said, I want it to be anti-fascist, which was an interesting thing to say right in the middle of blacklisting, but I was eager to please him in that way. And I'd read this story, and I told him about it and showed it to him. And he leapt at it. It was called Shirley Jackson, The Lottery. And it's about a ritual stoning. And it seems to be about everybody ganging up on one person because of superstition and prejudice and whatnot. I took it 24 hours ahead in order to make it real, so that you meet real people who are under this pressure without saying what the pressure was. And he directed it very brilliantly, and what he called the cameo technique, and it did make a considerable splash. According to Time magazine, it was the most exciting play ever seen on U.S. television, which, since this was 1950, you know, television was just there. Nobody was aiming at television. It was just there. And it was starting, and we were starting, and it was sort of like summer stock used to be for actors. They wanted you because they needed to fill the time. They knew you one way or another, and if you were a dramatist or had any idea of being one, it was the place to go, and you were using it as a stepping stone, you thought. And I had no idea it would be as big a part of my life as it was. The brilliance of her story is that it opens on a sunny day. These people are washing their dishes, and these same women are then going to go and draw lots with their husbands. Then if the family that draws the black thing will draw again, and one member of the family is the loser, and it happens to be the woman that you first see washing dishes, and suddenly she is in the middle of the circle, and they all, one of the lines was, Mrs. So-and-so picked up a rock that was so big she had to use both hands. And that so appalled me. I remember shutting the New Yorker. But I thought, that's what he wants. He wants small town faces, he wants violence, and he wants anti-that. And so I showed, anyway, I did it, and then he got one from Martha Miller, which was Sweller. So they did that, but it flopped. And then mine went to Lights Out. I did it on spec. And somebody at Lights Out suggested to me that I put Jesus in it in some way. And he said, nothing obvious, maybe like just a cross in the background. So I just went back to theater arts and said, like, I don't know, they're crazy, and just didn't do anything. And then, of course, everything turned around again, and McCleary called up in the great lash up, and he needed extra scenes, and Barbara Schultz played the ingenue. And by taking it at 24 hours ahead, I introduce you to people under strain. You don't know what the strain is. It's as if there was a lynching going to be happening, but you don't call it that. And a stranger comes through town, which is a line in the story, who says they've done away with it in his town. And so there's a moment when they could fight it and don't, you know, that kind of thing. It was kind of fairly elementary, but McCleary did a fabulous overhead shot for the stoning. He used no props, fortunately. And so that this whole thing was shot from above, but you knew what, it was really scary. People called the station just the way they'd called the Orson Welles thing about when he did the thing about on the radio. And they got I don't know how many letters. And then I did it as a stage plays for a touring company.